now we have Nakhoon Choi, who's the International Director of Korea Blockchain Association. He's going to be talking about Korea's regulation on blockchain, which will be a very interesting topic for a lot of you, I should imagine. He is a serial entrepreneur in New York, a New York attorney, and was the IT regulator in the European Commission in Brussels. Can you please give Nakhoon a very warm welcome to the stage?
Hello, everyone. It's not easy to hear lectures consecutively in the Monday morning, so if anybody wants to stretch arms or whatever, you all could do that. And also, at 3 p.m. today, the Korean attorney will actually talk about compliance. So even though I myself, as an international compliance and legal expert on blockchain issues, I'd rather not talk about the compliance issue today, but something more bigger. I just let everybody to pause and ponder and wonder a little bit what we do. So welcome everybody for Korea's blockchain community. And last summer, Korean passion for cryptocurrency was formidable and was so impressive that a lot of countries thought that we're cryptocurrency powerhouse country. And as you can see that during the summer, the top 3 exchange for the Ethereum during the summer, we kind of were doing most of the volume, popping up the price for Ethereum last summer. And also, during the summer, a lot of days, Korea's volume for 24-hour volume ranking, the Korean exchange was during the top. This shows our passion and how Koreans are open for this kind of trading. And then I was discussing this with my friends, why we do this. And then he thought that, well, we used to do this with our game money. Also, we used to do this with we had this thing called Cyber World. It's more like a social network service that we had 15 years ago. And then I used to send this nuts. It was called Totori, we were sending this to my friend within our social network service when somebody replied my answer or something like that. So I think it's embedded in our culture to send something on a cyber or whatever. So we were really jumping all over it when it happened. And then last year was so good year for a lot of people. Some people, if somebody bought it in January, Bitcoin, they did, let's say, 13x. And what kind of multiple did you achieve through your other portfolio? So no wonder that there was a craze and people were jealous, public sentiment. There were this 20-something who got super rich. So no wonder that I think we had to admit that it was one of the few channels that some people could get a high multiple than we couldn't get before, which got public attention and which actually led a lot of newcomers, high qualified comers to participate in this blockchain market, which will make this industry a little bit more robust. And all the other digital assets, let's say 7x. So last year, this is Q4 last year's summary. But as you can see, that Bitcoin still dominates 40% of the market. Fees are rising. And interestingly, the aggregate market cap became over 600 billion, which is very, very impressive. And then predictions are hit high, and then it got a lot of public attention. And the other thing that I wanted to pinpoint is that the forks have been rising. Token generation event has been rising with about 44 billion. And if you see the small traders are going long and the big traders are going short, which is a little bit more counterintuitive. And this is the 4-year, more like a map of who did how much ICO. And then I kind of interestingly think that, wow, this many people got 6 billion in the last 4 years. That's kind of interesting because from my experience being on the VC market, the last 10 years, especially in Silicon Valley and New York VC market, it's really, really tough. So I was a little bit jealous to see people raise all this money with much, I personally think, a little bit of less preparation that I had to prepare for the money market in New York. And this is a little bit like a trend for the blockchain technology market growth. So let's say for all the beautiful technology that we'll be making through our blockchain technology, there will be like this market kind of surrounds to have, this price will be, let's say, double next year, triple a year after, and let's say like 5 times in 4 years. It's like, this is a prediction. So I think it's a good time for us to be in this industry, and at least we're hopeful. But let's have a step back. We're like all this blockchain bubble, wake up. This is still a very, very minuscule industry. Let's say stock market is like 66 trillion, and all the money in the world are 83 trillion. And where are we? Let's say Bitcoin is, let's say, 200 billion. Let's say all the cryptos, 400 billion. That's technically still less than 1% volume of entire stock market in the world. So so many people are investing and a lot of money. Still, we're still 1% of the entire economic activity participants. So let's not get delusional that what we're doing is like epicenter of the next universe. It's a long way to go to do that. Like if the cryptocurrency users will become the level of the users of the Facebook, wait, hold your horses. It's going to take a little bit more while to get that. And let's not forget that there are other things which we forgot about it, called internet and enterprise blockchains and intranets. They will still be out there helping Bitcoin technology, blockchain technology, and it will be like an integrated ecosystem. So let's not forget that blockchain is not a panacea for everything, because it is not. Also, I wanted to talk about this issue, VC, IPO versus ICO. How did we raise money before? Like in a traditional money market, if you want to do something, you go to Silicon Valley, you talk to Sequoia, Kleiner Perkins. I did. I got actually money from them before. But this is a Q2 statistics. ICO money raised was like 3 times more than the traditional VC funding. Can you believe it? So, new trend. The traditional corporations. From 1602, the Dutch East Company offered to public to raise their capital. So since then, our journey for companies, corporations to raise money from the public has started. And then in the USA, the first IPO was Bank of North America around 1783. So after that, it became a little bit like a norm that to make a corporation and they raise money for the public, and then you have a board of directors, you have shareholders, and then you need to enrich them and give them financial reward. But I kind of see ICO or token generation event, more bigger, more like a philosophical underpinning of corporations. So in the 1937, like my alma mater, the University of Chicago Law School professor Ronald Coase came up with this idea that because we hated our transaction cost, that we came up with this entity of corporation, because we technically could have done bilateral contract to the market, but because this was so inefficient, so we come up with the entity of corporation. So now, this is the new time to look at corporations and how we raise money a little bit differently. Like venture capital is a little loony in a way that 78% of the US venture capital raising only happened in these 3 states. And then do you know how diverse the venture investing is? Only like 15% for this little bit how do you call it? Non-rocket kind of company. So it has been only focused on the company that they could get 10 or 20 multiple, like very fast. But not all industry can do that. So some of the industry were neglected from the VC industry, obviously. And then also, you know that only 1% of the VC money went to African Americans and Latinos, and like less than like 5% of the female founders. And then let's say that like, did you look at the diversity level of the VC composition? It's almost like non-diverse. So, and we have been living like this. Also, the IPO disadvantages. Do you know how much does it cost? Because I was reading something that yesterday, Spotify decided not to do IPO, that they decided to do direct public offering because they didn't want it to pay the cost of 300 million because they didn't want it to pay that to the financial institution that doing the middleman for them. Like people were paying big just to go IPO and then only a few of them could do that. So these are all problems. And we didn't do anything about it until this far. And then for everybody now, we act as if blockchain can solve all the life problems that we have. It could, but we shouldn't forget that it's optimal for a certain industry at a certain specific solutions, but not all. And then we have to tackle the problem from the order that is efficient. So let's say IBM decided to collaborate with Merck. The first one was logistics, Merck. And the second one was food safety with Walmart. Like it's very, very like problem solving. It's very visible. I think we need that kind of a little bit more practical approach. Obviously, it will change the phenomenon of securities, money market, smart contract, digital currency, and record keeping. Obviously, we know that. Other thing is, okay. These are all the use cases that I thought of that coming up with. As you can see, let's say the token sales right now, let's say if it has been last year, July, you could have gotten a lot of money by white paper without much use cases. But I think from now on, I think you need at least a couple of very needle point practical use cases on top of your gigantic general idea how wonderful your blockchain technology is. You still need a needle point, a very practical use case. Because the bar has been rising, and then I kind of like this phenomenon because let's say we are here, the blockchain is here. The peak of implanted expectation, this is like a Gartner report. So let's face it, the next couple of years, we're going to see the start of disillusionment, meaning that the bubble will a little bit burst. And then we'll have a little bit of enlightenment, and then will be a plateau. So let's not forget that we are kind of saying what we cannot deliver. A little bit, not all of us, but some of us. So we are here that we're doing a little bit of the proof of concept. And then next couple of years, the shared infrastructure emerges, meaning that people will come just for the multiple, like the users, a little bit. I ask these users to buy the coins. Are they really like reading all the white papers and are they like scrutinizing all the technology? They're not. They're expecting the Bitcoin multiple that we had last year. It was more that sentiment. And then there will be time this purple boards, and then there will be time that will be more focused on the blockchain as a service, and then later blockchain as an infrastructure, and then later blockchain will become like an internet, like an air that we don't need to talk about it then. But this is the industry that I need to promote. But still, because I love it so much that I want to make it sustainable. So I need to talk about this, the white elephant in the room. So the Tajos case, like the team fought, internal struggle. So who's intervened? Who's going to change? Who's going to execute what they promised? Who's responsible? The legal advisor, MME, is responsible? I don't know. They're doing a litigation each other. So who's going to execute the business? Number two, the G2 guideline, the G summit in Argentina is scheduled in March 20th, and 35 nations and EU and Financial Action Task Force is come up with a new AML, meaning that G20 prime ministers will come up with a new regulation in around that time, meaning that whatever comes out after that will be make the global regulation a little bit more rigid than now, which will change a lot of things. And for now, it's when I see ICO, it kind of looks like this. Like in the traditional, I was in the traditional VC money raising market recently through my e-commerce company. And then recently that I was in the like a pre-series A, even like raising the similar money that raising for the ICO. And then I had to prove the users. And then I even have to prove that my users paid, so I have income. And then I almost had to prove that I had break even, just to get whatever, 1/10 of the ICO money raising. So I was like, and people are kind of doing the token sales for the white papers and then the technology analysis, but when in a traditional VC market we invest money when you see the team and the advisors and technology, like without like seeing the proof of concept, like angel investing probably, or pre-A. So when I see that these two disparity, obviously that people say that don't look at token generation event as a traditional VC angle, but let's say that's a little bit, you're saying that you wanted to get away from like everything. So, and then some founders, they exit even before they execute. They raise the money, okay, and they exit. But traditional like VC, that founders are responsible until they execute. And then founders are liable for scrutiny of the auditing and the VC intervention and board of directors decision. I don't know how much this is viable for blockchain foundation right now for ICOs. And people think it's a little bit easier money than we had before, but is it that really a good thing that you can deliver what you promise and then it's okay? So I wanted to ponder and wonder and ask us a little bit more philosophical questions. Why did we have blockchain from the first place? It became around the year 2008 when Wall Street, we had Occupy, and then we thought that all the big financial institutions were doing shitty things behind our back, and then we thought that all the centralized, either government or centralized financial institutions was not acting fair to us. So right now, we come up with a lot of this big idea, and then the more we say big, the more we get bigger funding, we think. But where's the needle point? I thought that when we're making company or service for the IT market, I had to be concrete and needle point as much as possible to get my money before. And then also the regulation, accredited investor or something. But doesn't this make the rich investor getting more richer, whereas the general stakeholders of the general public to have access for the blockchain service? It's not. So there is a social justice issue here. And then before, after Lehman Brothers bubble bursted, when Dodd-Frank regulation came in New York, which made more good medium-sized financial institutions to have the compliance cost too high, later only left with the only top 20 institutions which only can pay the high cost of the compliance cost. So the more intervene the government have, which will crowd out all the good players who are in the middle range, we're left with only, let's say, centralized the top players. So why did we thought of this decentralized from the first place? Because we wanted to make the world a better place. We have all these life problems, tragedy of commons, environmental problem, social problem. How many people in the third world have access for bank? Very few. How many foreign workers can send their money back to their country without much ado? It's still very difficult. And then social justice problem, income disparity. What kind of blockchain is doing to get rid of income disparity? Like 10% of the the top US population had about 40% of the US GDP around the 1930s. And then the Theodore Roosevelt kind of changed that up until 15, which was a dramatic, make it so much better. But recently it's around like 45 by the thesis of the Piketty. So it's still very income disparity. So what do we do this to make this situation better? I kind of approach blockchain. This could be, let's say, the only hope for humanity, for the problems that it's going on all the world that we need to tackle. And then thank you for listening. And then thank you. I think my end comment a little bit more like I almost become like a social activist, which I'm not. But because I care about the blockchain community so much that I kind of wanted to pause and let people step down and step back a little bit and ponder and wonder that what we do really make the world better, or what we're doing is make the society and then the underprivileged people's life better. Thank you for listening.